Hello everyone, Mr. B is back on another Sunday morning, and today we're going to talk about my first automatic watch and why I would maybe today start different. The latest Bulgari Octo Retro Maserati Grand Sport and a 40-year-old Submariner 5513 of a good friend of mine. Let's do this. Alright guys, here she is, my first automatical watch, a Marcelo C Tridente with a water resistance of about 1000 meter, a diameter of 44 millimeter, a height more or less of 15 millimeter, lug width round about 22 millimeter, and distance measured lug to lug of 51 millimeter. With 200 gram, a solid watch on the wrist, I can tell you that. Did wear this piece about 3 years from 2008 until 2011, when I actually then get my first luxury watch, my Rolex GMT Master 2, the ceramic version. I mentioned before that I might choose, if I were today in the position purchasing my new watch or my first automatical watch, a different piece. On the one hand, it is a similarity of this watch to the Rolex, of course, and I do think if I would have gone for the Tag Heuer Aqua Racer or the Longines Hydro Conquest, I also had in my mind these watches would get time on my wrist also today, because they are a little bit more unique in their designs. The brand itself has a more or a longer history, and yeah, I think this is a topic which becomes during these years actually more important to me. On the one hand, Rolex is the brand of the most first water resistant watch, first watch with a date complication, then with a quick changing date complication, and so on. And yeah, this is the thing. On the one hand, I had a lot of different happenings and experiences with this watch. Nevertheless, right now, it is not worn very often due to this. It's very hard for her to compete against the Submariner, and it's not because of the price. You know, I do have also the Psycho Turtle Party Edition I just purchased recently, and this watch actually gets lots of wrist time, as it's on the one hand very unique in its design. The history of the watch is very interesting, and it is a fun piece to wear, and of course this is also a fun piece to wear. But before I choose this one, I will go and switch on my Submariner or my GMT Master. So see it as a sort of advice for you guys if you are going to purchase your first watch. My recommendation definitely is check out a watch in terms of their history, their design history, and I would really suggest you aiming for a watch which is a little bit more unique on its own and does less copy other brands or other designs. Alright guys, let's discuss the latest release from Bulgari. The Bulgari Octo Retro Maserati Grand Sport. The Octo 9 is on the market since a while now. Was discussed in the beginning, not very friendly, as a lot of people say they do imitate a little bit the design of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. Nevertheless, the followers of the Octo line did grow once in a while, and the watch gets its respect nowadays, and I think the latest version is very well made. What makes this watch so interesting? On the one hand, you do have a retrograde minute counter and a jumping hour on the dial, nothing more. The retrograde minutes complication is shown actually like a ref counter. So in the middle of the dial you have got the jumping hour, in digital, jumps from 12, 13 and so on. And the retrograde or retrograde minute does count from 0 to 60 and goes back and up again. And in terms of the motorsport theme, especially the Grand Sport Maserati theme, this is a very well chosen design from my point of view. And to me, it's very refreshing to see that there are some brands out there who do like to do something new. Of course, the retrograde complication itself or jumping hour itself is not a new complication, but to bring it out in this rev counter style makes this watch really to a special piece. It's as well, it's very wearable with 41.5 millimeter diameter. The water resistance of 100 meter is pretty decent for an everyday carry watch. You can get it in powder coated steel or in rose gold, which is fine to me too. The price, as it's a Bulgari, is pretty expensive. I think for the steel coated version you have to pay about 12,500 US, and for the rose gold, what was it, 25,000-ish? I'm not sure, I will add this somewhere here. Nevertheless, to me it's refreshing to see that there are watch brands or brands itself who like to play a little bit around with designs, who like still to implement different complications in a watch, and this is seen not very often these days. So just because Bulgari did this, thumbs up for them. Thanks a lot, guys, for doing this, and I hope I could bring you Bulgari a little bit closer. Alright guys, let's address the last topic of today's rant, the 5513 Submariner of a good friend of mine. Shout out to you, Hans-Gerd. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity filming this piece. The watch itself is in beautiful condition, a perfect example how vintage watches should be treated actually. The condition of this piece is really perfectly. Of course it does have dents and scratches. The Hazelite glass was exchanged once because the former one did break. The lume dot got lost, so it was replaced once the watch was serviced, and they did actually polish the whole case. It was done by Rolex, so the polish was done according to their standards. Nevertheless, the owner was shocked a little bit, but still the watch case itself is beautiful. It's worn down a little bit. The matte black dial with the really beautiful developed patina, the vanilla colored lume matches the lume of the hands. The watch itself really does have character. And come on, even nowadays the watch is worn for swimming, and it works and works and works. And this is actually how, to me, or why to me, watch collecting is so interesting, because you wear a watch, it grows old with you, and it develops its own design and gets its own marks, and this makes vintage, real vintage, so fun to me. I'm not fond of purchasing a vintage piece or a piece which do have this fake vintage lume. Yeah, it could be a design clue, but if you have the real deal on your arm for plenty of years, this is actually the more interesting thing to me. And I do really hope that my 14060 does age as well and beautifully as Hans-Gerd's 5513 does. Interesting to me was also the 5513 just has a water resistance of 200 meter, and actually the bezel is bidirectional. So the 14060 bezel you can just turn unidirectional. The 5513 bezel you can turn in both directions. Alright guys, that's it for today. Big shout out to my friend WCS Watch Collecting Strategy. Link to his channel is in the description of this video below. Guys, check out Watch Collecting Strategies. It's good advice if you would like to start a watch collection, rants about cars and watches. I did like actually pretty much that one. And overall good information about straps, about interesting collectible watches. If you do have questions, comments, recommendations, do leave them in the comment field below. Of course, I'm every time happy about thumbs up if you did like this video. If you didn't, thumbs down, accepted as usual. I do wish all of you now a good start in the new week, a happy weekend, and see you in the next one. Bye guys.